Max Wardell here from overheadathletics.com. I wanted to show you guys a pretty awesome before and after here, so I'll just play it through one time and then I'll play it through in slow-mo and we'll kind of talk about what's going on in these two throwers. And the one on the left is one of his initial videos from probably the second or third time we were actually able to work with him. So pretty good compared to where he was at even to start, and the right one is after working with him for a few months now. It was actually one of our last throwers before we were shut down due to the COVID-19 virus. So when we actually look at these throws, you'll now see that on the right he can release the ball way closer to the target with a much more efficient position of not only his lower extremities, but look at how much farther forward his chest is, and he gets the ball out of his hand, out in front of his body and out in front of his front foot, and he's able to decelerate through a greater arc of motion. So now he hasn't placed as much stress on his rotator cuff muscles and some of the muscles that are very, very important in the posterior shoulder for stabilizing against that inertia at the end of the throw. So in the beginning of the throw, what's different? He's got a little bit higher leg lift, largely due to some increased balance and positional awareness that allows him to now stay rotated away from the target on the right, where he's already opening towards the target almost immediately in the video on the left, and it leads to him having a short stride on the left where he steps way across his body. And on the right, you can see how much more distance he covers. So one of the biggest things with this athlete was getting him to actually stretch his hamstrings and improve his hamstring flexibility. And that way, when he actually moves down the mound, he can not only cover more distance, but he can do so without resistance from his own body. So if you are tight in your hamstrings or somewhere else that's limiting your ability to get in certain positions, you're essentially fighting your own body. Here, not only have we improved how he sequences his trunk rotation, his lower body rotation, but we've changed how he lifts the ball. So now when he lifts the ball, he's in a much more efficient position here that allows him to accelerate his arm pulling down and towards the target. Whereas if you look at the video on the left, what you'll see with his arm path on this back arm here is that he'll actually go up with his elbow, down with his elbow, and then back up and over with his elbow, which is a rather inefficient pathway. On the right, we get him to follow a pathway more like this, where he goes up and over. So up, down, up again on the left. And what you'll see on the right is that doesn't really happen. So totally altered EMG profile of this athlete, totally altered acceleration phase, and much more efficient now because he can accelerate his arm pulling down with gravity, utilizes more linear acceleration towards the target by covering more distance and more efficient positions of his hip without stepping across his body, and now he's able to access his highest angular rotational acceleration because he's not actually fighting rotation because he stepped across his body and he's rotated farther away from the target at this point in the throw. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video here, this before and after, and we'll talk more in the future. Hopefully during this time I can keep supplying you guys with some good content that you can absorb and kind of utilize in your training while you're working out here on your own.